My name is Jeff H. Sipe, and I have over 10 years of recruiting experience, including 5 years at Google. I recently reached out to some former colleagues, family, and friends to learn a little bit more about their interviewing frustrations. And it was an extremely insightful exercise. Many of these frustrations involved how to navigate three different types of interviews. So, one, interviewers that just asked rote questions and were looking for straight up answers. They have a clear agenda and they're really unwilling to go off course or get off their script. Second, were interviewers that had a lack of preparation. They don't have your resume, they haven't looked at your resume, they don't really even know who you are. And then item three was just a lack of alignment with the interviewers, meaning each interviewer had a slightly different idea or ideas for what the role and position required. So in this video, we are going to cover how to take control in a job interview to have greater success. And stay tuned to the end. I'm going to cover one additional topic at the end that's going to help you have even greater success as you walk into these interviews. So let's dive in. Item one, question and answer. We have all been there. The interviewer comes in, they clearly have an agenda, and they seem to be unwilling and have no desire to go off script. So there are four critical items that come into play with these interviews. First, you need to break them out of their pattern by digging in and asking a lot of follow-up and clarifying questions. This will instantly just change their attitude, change their pace, change things up a little bit. Second, every answer needs to incorporate follow-up questions. So this comes in two facets. One, you've used the STARLF method and you have planned specific follow-up questions at the end of your behavioral answers. Secondly, it's just covering areas where you might have fumbled or you want to be more clear. Asking those questions again can just get your interviewer a little bit out of their pattern. Third, when you get to the end of the interview and it's time to ask your questions, you need to have a list of questions that's really going to probe and break through, not your typical questions. So come in with some more difficult questions for these types of interviewers, such as, Jane, if you were the CEO of the organization, what are 3 items you would really focus on over the next year to grow the business? Great question, really makes Jane start to think and again gets her out of her pattern. Lastly, and very importantly in these interviews, if you have not presented why you are a great fit, you need to pitch yourself in the form of a question. So if it comes at the end, you can say, Jane, one of the items we haven't been able to really focus on or talk about is my 3 strengths of A, B, and C as they align well with the role. Would you like me to focus any more on those strengths? Tell you a little bit more on why I think that skill set matches and aligns well for the organization. Item 2, lack of preparation. So we've all been in this scenario too. The interviewer shows up, maybe they even show up late. They don't know who you are. They don't have a copy of your resume. They're clearly unprepared and maybe a little bit uninterested in interviewing you. So this is where your preparation is key. So step 1, empathy. They will likely be apologetic for not being prepared. That's the most common default. They want to show some grace and kindness to you. Most will be that way. Instantly right off the bat, you say, look, I've been there. I've been running into an interview and maybe I wasn't ready to give that interview. You really want to say it in a kind and gracious manner. Remember that this might not be their fault. They might have needed to step in last minute for somebody else. Their admin might not have added it to their calendar until the last minute. They may have scheduled a half an hour to prepare before the interview and they got pulled into a fire that morning and they didn't have time to prepare. So really practice great empathy. It's a great way to get started and make them feel comfortable with you. Step 2, have a copy of your resume. I used to always tell candidates at Google, hey, don't have a copy of your resume, we'll have it. But the reality is you should always show up with a pen, paper, and multiple copies of your resume, at least twice as many as you think you're gonna need. Expect anything and everything. Tell them if they need a minute to review your resume. Smile, put them at ease, get them to that zen place. It will instantly de-stress them and set you up for success. Step number 3, tell them about yourself. And so as Sue comes in and she's getting a little bit organized, say, Sue, I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about how my strengths align with the role. Talk about A, B, and C, the strategy that we've used in the past, and say, Sue, as you're thinking about those strengths, which item is calling to you the most? What seems to be the greatest need for this role? Instantly unprepared Sue is feeling much more comfortable. You're putting her in a dialogue. Sue probably gets what you're doing and appreciates it. So what you've done is you've showed empathy, you've remained calm, you've showed great organizational skills, and instantly shared why you're a strong match for the role. Item 3, misalignment, definitely the most tricky of the three. So specifically, the hiring manager, she has a different vision than her direct reports, who have a different vision than the collaborative or cross-functional partners that you interview with. So step 1, after the first interview, just mentally be taking that information into the next interview, but start to flex a little bit as you hear different objectives. So step 2 is you start looking for themes. Maybe Jen and Tim named 5 items about the role, 4 were different and 1 was the same. So start to check that in your head and say, okay, this is the one item that seems to be aligned. And so while they weren't aligned on everything, they were aligned on one item. Step 3, ask great questions on why these items are so important to the success of the role, because then what you're starting to figure out is what's real and what seems to be just something that an individual may want or may prefer. Step 4, overwhelming positivity about the different visions, especially with the hiring manager. So you could end up saying something like, I found this group has slightly varying and differing opinions on some of the details and expectations of the position. I see this as an awesome opportunity for us to start working towards a shared vision that would help me positively impact the role and the organization. Item 4, so this is the last kind of tip or trick. This really starts with the recruiter or HR person. You need to start by killing them with kindness and then killing them with questions. And so you've had funky scenarios that have happened. The office has been hard to find. You've had a 5-hour interview without food, without water. So if these are common items that keep coming up in your interviews, you're going to want to ask these questions to the recruiter or HR person beforehand. You're also definitely going to want to find out how many interviews you have, what are the personality types of the interviewers, can you look them up on LinkedIn, all these great items. I am going to put in the description below a ton of great questions you can ask just so you have that list and I don't have to talk through all of them and bore you with that list, but I'll put them all down there and I'll add some from my last video just to make sure that you are prepared 100%. If you take control during the interview, it will increase your likelihood for success. Remember, you can't control everything, but if you can master a few of these very common interview scenarios, you know they're going to happen, it's going to help you have way greater success in your job interviews. I hope this helps. Please subscribe to my channel. Have a great day. Take care.